Hi, I'm Heather Strotter, and this is A Place of Yes. In each episode, we have honest conversations about grief, the messy parts, the unexpected moments, and the ways we begin to heal. Through heartfelt stories and expert advice, my hope is to offer you comfort, connection, and a reminder that you don't have to navigate this alone. Today, I'm joined by Erica Phelps, a Jake's Help from Heaven mom, for a deeply emotional conversation rooted in a bond no parent ever wants to share, the loss of a child. We talk about the heartbreaking reality of losing children at a young age and the lifelong grief that follows. Erica shares the story of her daughter, Emmie, and what it has looked like to navigate the shock, isolation, and physical weight of grief while continuing to move through everyday life. We also talk about the ways our children continue to shape who we are after they're gone, the complicated experience of parenting our other children through loss, and the importance of feeling seen by people who truly understand. It's honest, heartbreaking, and deeply personal, and I'm grateful to share it with you. So this conversation is so special to me for so many reasons. When A Place of Yes started, it started with just conversations with families through our organization, Jake's Help from Heaven. And as the podcast grew and as things evolved, we started talking to people all over the place about all different kinds of grief and loss. But one of the things I always love coming back to is conversations with those in my immediate community, in the community of Jake's Help from Heaven. And for those who don't know, Jake's Help from Heaven is the organization that my husband and I started after the loss of our son, Jake. And through that organization, we have just made so many connections and so many relationships and people who I now call my friends in this world of complex, medically challenged children. And one of those friends is Erica Phelps, who I'm interviewing today. And it's a little bittersweet because, well, I have always enjoyed our deliveries and chatting with her, and she's just someone I've always felt connected to. We're here today because of the common, I don't know, that horrible thing that has brought us together once again, and it is child loss. And we're here to talk about her beautiful Emmie. So welcome to the show, Erica. I'm so honored that you are here to have this conversation with me.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me and allowing us to be part of your family.
I'd love to talk before we get into the child loss and grief and all of that. Can you just paint a picture of Emmie? I remember that delivery, particularly with the chair, where we had her in your kitchen and we were spinning her around and she just had such a beautiful smile. But can you share with us your Emmie? Tell us who she was, a little bit of her story.
My husband and I came together, um, and we both had two children from previous marriages. We had Emmy, and she kind of just completed us as a solid family unit. You know, she was sort of that center glue that just made us all even more connected. She had that special way about her. Everybody just loved her. There was no sibling jealousy or anything like that. She was just a bright light. She was born healthy. We had the first couple months to enjoy watching her develop and grow and meet milestones and all the things that babies do. And unfortunately, around 3.5, 4 months of age, she started with something called infantile spasms. And we really didn't know the extent of what was going on and why she was having those. And unfortunately, she it took a long time to get those under control. And with that, the strain that it had put on her brain of having those infantile spasms and things, she became sort of almost frozen at that 4-month point. So, though she was physically growing, to all of us, she was still that 4-month-old, little girl. I think what happened along the way too is with any kiddos with neuro type conditions, sometimes the secondary stuff is what then starts to take also a huge presence in the care of their day to day, because there's so many things that she struggled with secondary because her brain was unable to talk to the rest of her body and say, you need to cough to get this secretions up, or you need to do this or that. She wasn't able to do those things. So we had to spend a lot of time learning how to care for all the secondary things too that came along with not just seizures.
There's grief, and it took me a long time to identify this, and I think you've identified it much quicker, but that life, right? That caregiving life, that 24/7, like you said, like total care.
Mhm.
It's a life you just get very used to, and siblings get used to it, and your
Right.
husband is used to it, and even other family members, like, it's just it's all inclusive,
Mhm.
and I'd love to talk a little bit about that. I was gonna get to this later, but I think this is the perfect time because there is that grief around no longer being the caregiver, and I remember in the days after Jake died, like, all of a sudden being like, "Oh, what do I do?" Like,
Mhm.
because even if we brought him to school or to a program for a couple hours, I still wasn't far from there, like, I still had to be very present, and when
Mhm.
he was home, and even if there was someone helping me, it was still I was really the only one who could feed him
Mhm.
consistently without him throwing up, or, like, what I mean?
Mhm.
There was no time off, like, Jake slept with us because he couldn't be alone, and we didn't have night nursing, like, things are a little bit different for some families now, but it's that I didn't know how to fill the space, and it's almost like as much as you miss them, you miss everything about the life as you've known it.
100%. I mean, it becomes your identity, it becomes everything. And when that's just comes to a hard stop, it is hard to all of a sudden figure out not just grieving them and who they were, but that caregiving 24/7 life that we all knew to just not be our life anymore. It's still, we're still navigating and working through that and experiencing things that we didn't expect to experience because we didn't have the time nor the ability to think about anything outside of that. What could we do to make everything work with ourselves and the kids within that 24/7 caregiving job, or maybe that's not the right word, but I mean, she
No,
was
but
our.
yeah.
Yeah.
For like, front of mind for everything, and even
Mhm.
going to dinner was,
Yes, the simplest
like
things, like,
yeah.
we had to always do things separately because, like you said, one of us had to be here for her at all times, and we not only do we miss it because we were so honored and happy to be doing it, no matter how many sleepless nights we had, how many, hospital stays, and you would just I would do it over and over and over again if it meant that she could be here. But, I find myself maybe still dealing with that a little bit because I am like talking like, well, if she could just be here again, I would, do other, but that's m- maybe
Well,
where I'm
because
just.
you knew how no matter how hard the days were or the hospital stays or how scary, those were always better than the alternative.
Exactly.
Now that we're in the alternative, it's you just wanna go back to however hard it was before because it's better than
Yes.
what it is.
Yes, and you miss the it was our identity as a family, as parents, as, and it shapes everything in your life.
And I think we should share with the audience because I don't think I did a great job of introducing this, but your grief is so new. It's so I remember and I know that she passed on December 10th, which
Mhm.
when this comes out so you're approaching 6 months, is my math right?
Yes, and yes, June
Yeah,
10th will be
in
6
June,
months.
it'll be 6 months, and I remember, getting a text from Lori, your caseworker, letting us know that you guys were in the hospital and it wasn't looking good. And it was either right before or on maybe. I call it his death day, but Jake's day, which was December
Mhm.
8th. And I remember when I got that text, like, just, like, the air getting, like, tight, like, getting like, just I couldn't breathe because I remember, it's one of the things that when I was talking before about the closeness that we can have with some of the families that we work with, it's also this horrible because it's like we work with kids who are medically fragile, like we've just talked about, and I know that that is unfortunately could be what happens, and when it does happen, it just I hate it so much, and I was hating it for you, and I just I still hate it for you, right? I just hate that anyone else has to go through this. Um, so Emmy passed away, like we said, just 6 months ago, so this grief is still so new for you guys, and
Mhm.
so, so one of my I was gonna ask you, like, what did it look like in the early days, but part of you are still in the early days, like, you're still in those moments. Do you feel like it's changed at all, or how are you feeling?
Um, I think it's still very I still feel very there's day raw. It's still very, like, raw. There's days where, I um, I'm struggling. I'm struggling to just move forward, but I don't even really know still to I think it just sucks.
Like, there's no put a bow on it and make it better, it just
Mm-mm.
sucks.
And, you know, I I am grateful that I have met some other moms and families that have experienced not just loss of the life of the 24/7 caregiving life, but just life of a child. It's just not life's it's not how life is supposed to go. And all of a sudden you find yourself in this club that you was always at least my worst fear. I'm sure,
Yep,
you know,
yep.
many people feel that way, but when you're all of a sudden just there and you're trying to say to yourself, is this really is this really real? Is this really happening? Is this all the things? Um, I think what I have found the most helpful so far is connecting with other moms like yourself, people that just really know that pain without having to put it into words or without having to describe exactly how you feel. Because they know it just sucks.
It just can also, like, it can feel unsurvivable, and I think, like, I remember even in my days, early days, it was not that I became best friends with people, but to know that other people were out there and survived it, and whether I knew them personally or I read books of families or I I remember having to talk to myself, like, "You have to get out of bed. You are still a mother. You are still a wife." I really had to, like, talk to myself in order to move forward. And
Right.
then, like anything else, right? Like, then the habit becomes like, okay, you move forward.
Mhm.
But it's still, and I think when we had talked before, we talked a little bit about, like, that figuring out who you are now, right?
Mhm.
Because when you are that person, that caregiver, like we talked about the 24/7 care, but also when you're just all of your focus becomes on keeping someone else alive, it's so hard to then know what to do.
Mhm.
How has losing Emmy, like, how has that changed the way you see yourself? Like, how do you feel like you have changed the most? Like, or do you still feel like you're still that same person? And that's, it's hard to know.
The times that I have here currently with with my children and the moments that I have with them, I am just appreciating those 1,000 times more because I thought I did before. I thought like I said, that was my worst nightmare. My worst nightmare, unfortunately, happened. now I'm stuck having to live with that worst nightmare, but also still be, like you said, a mom, a wife, all the things, but I'm navigating that through different eyes, a different sense of the world because it's not the same world to me without her. But it's taught me to at least appreciate my moments that I do have with my other children and family because it really is that fragile. Life is really that fragile. And
When Jake first died, and still 15 years later, I mean, I think everything I do is because I try so hard to make sure that no one forgets he existed, that he was here, that
yes,
he
yeah.
was a real person, and so I love when people remember him. I love when people ask about him. I love when people, um, remember it's his birthday or even his death day or, even if it's just sending an emoji. So how are you now? Because you're not even 6 months. Like, do you like when people do you love talking about her, or does it feel still too sad, or is it both?
It's definitely both, but it depends. But I would still choose to have people talk about her versus not talk about her, even if it's sad, because, like you said, I don't want her to be forgotten. I When I talk about her, there's something about it that just makes me feel like she's less gone, even though I know she's really gone.
No, I know that. I
you
love
know,
that.
hmm yeah. So I like when people talk about her. I like when people just can say, of course, you have no words, it's okay. Like, but just know, hey, I might be having a moment. Just bear with me,
Just be with me in the moment. Yeah.
talk about her, you know, all those things. I would still rather that than her name not be said or her, memories not be shared because those, like I said, make me feel like she's, you know, less gone than she really is.
I love that, and I love I have never used those words in those exact same way, but I love that. Like, that's exactly it. It makes them feel less gone, and of course, we know they're gone, right? But less gone, and I think it's kind of the goal that we have for the rest of our lives is to
Keep them somehow
connected.
with
Connected.
us. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So we talked about this when we got together, and I wanted to bring this up because it seems kind of like as you navigate this life, right? Like we're navigating a life that we never wanted to have because it's a life that's without one of our children.
Mhm.
But one of the things that we did was we started to do things that we could not have done when Jake was on Earth. And we tried to do things in our mentality, and it still is our mentality, is that when we do things, um, we bring him with us, right? So, like, Jake passed away in December, and that March, we took Ethan to Disney World. He had just turned 6. Um, we just did, and we kind of, in our own little way, felt like we were bringing Jake with us. And it was something we had talked about trying to figure out how to do, but it was gonna be a really long car like, it was not gonna be a great thing for Jake, even if it was gonna be a great thing for our family. And I think that's something you navigate too, right? Like,
Oh,
sometimes you
that.
do things for your other kids or your own well-being,
Mhm.
but the Jakes and the Emmys kind of pay a little bit of a price because it's hard
Mhm.
on them. So
Yes.
we did that, and I remember you saying, "So you have planned a trip for your whole family that you ordinarily would never have been able to
Mhm.
do." How
Mhm.
does that feel?
So, a little bittersweet, I guess, because again, part of us feels we don't wanna feel like we're moving on. We don't wanna f you know, it we don't wanna feel like just because she's no longer physically with us, that we can go ahead and think about doing things that we were not able to do when she was physically with us. Um, However, honoring her is by trying to be the best parents we can be to our other kids that are also grieving. They're also grieving, number 1, but they're also missing a life and didn't get to experience maybe the average life that they maybe see their friends or their peers experiencing. And even though they're nobody would change that. We're very, very blessed that, like I said, there's never been any jealousy. They
Yeah.
were always
But it's
super,
different.
but it's different. They were always supportive of Emmy and us. Um, so I guess to honor Emmy and everything that she taught us and everything that she um, sort of gave us, we want to, like I said, be the best that we can be to our other children. And we decided to book a vacation that is just us, and the four kids, and really do that though in honor of Emmy. Bring Emmy with us. We will bring things of Emmy's that we all love dearly and hold on to when we're, you know, having a moment or just need to just have something of hers near us, and really just try to create a memory that we can have, but they can have as kids. I mean, they're not young kids anymore, but most of their young years, a lot of them were spent being a sibling of a medically fragile, complex child. So they didn't get to experience maybe some of these things, and we want them to be able to. And we know Emmy would want them to.
Erica, it's so beautiful. I mean, I love the I love the way you're phrasing it as, like, honoring Emmy, because I think that it is 1,000, a million% true. Like, I think that, and bringing when you said that, everyone would bring a little something, like, Brian still, when we travel, often will bring a shirt. Like, there was a Gap shirt that I bought Jake when we would bring him to doctor's appointments, and it said,
Mhm.
"Believe the hype,"
Yeah.
because I always like, I just wanted the doctors to, like, not write him off ever, right? Like, so it was my own
Right.
little, like, mental cuckoo game that I would play, but he had
Mhm.
this little shirt that said, "Believe the hype," and it's on Brian's side of the bed, like, he's got it, like, binder clipped to our headboard still,
Yeah.
but he sometimes will bring it, like, because that's our it's the honoring, it's the whether it's, I've been calling it showing them the world or showing them things, but honoring them. I love it so much, and I hope it is as beneficial, and I think it will be, for you and your family as that sort of initial trip was for us, because I do think it's that allowing yourself. It's not doing it in spite of the person, it's doing it because of the person, and it's allowing yourself the most important way to honor them, which is to continue to live, which is to not give up, right?
Exactly. And all of the kids, all the other four kids are having, their own personal struggles, like we all are in with where we are right now. So our hope is by the time we go, it'll be a little over a year that Emmy unfortunately passed. And we want them to, I think our hope too is for them to learn that it's okay to maybe experience and enjoy something again and
Yep,
not feel guilty, because I think we're all still in a very guilty phase. If we do anything, um we feel guilty,
yep.
because putting on a smile or trying to be happy or trying to do things can still really feel not right,
Like,
without her. Again, it's that we don't want her to think we're moving on, or it's just our own mind game, sort of.
no, but it's a very real one, like, I still, like, I don't know, you find yourself being like, "Oh, I hope they're not mad," or you know what I mean? And it
Yes, and
yeah,
you talk to
or
them in your
sad.
head.
Yep.
Yes, and so we're trying to take some of that weight off of the other kids' shoulders.
How has it been, holding your own grief, like, working through your own, well, knowing that you've got 4 other children that you are trying to guide through it, like, and I'm
Yeah.
sure it shows up differently for each of the kids, for your husband, like, how are you managing that?
I mean, I think every day is different. There's days that I feel like, wow, I really stink at this. I'm not being supportive enough of that, for them, or I just really stink at this. Then there's other days where I maybe feel like, okay, I somehow got them through the moment that they were having, and to see them sort of come out from under that maybe moment they were having, I feel okay that I or I feel like I did my job, I guess, as a parent. But all while I'm still a grieving mom to grieving children. So it's a really
Loaded. It's
loaded
heavy.
place.
Yeah.
It's a tough place to be, and I don't know if I'm doing it right or wrong. I don't like I said, day to day it changes. I hope some days I'm helping them. Other days I know like I said, I completely stink at it. But
So I
I
want to
don't
say this. I still, 15 years later, think that some days I still stink at it. Like, I just
yeah.
know, like, and 15 years later, I can't always say it's all like grief. Obviously, sometimes it's my own behavior, it's my own headspace, it's other things, but I feel
Mhm.
like there's just this underlying difference
Mhm.
in who we are. And like you had said it earlier, you will never be that same person again.
Mhm.
And you
Mhm.
just never are. And it's hard to manage. So I'm sure that even when you think you stink, you don't. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and they see you trying, and they know your loss, and they know your struggle, and I don't know, I think it's hard. I think it's impossibly hard, but I think that you probably are doing better than you think.
Thank you. Yeah, I it's a tough place to be, but y- we're figuring it out together, all of us, and trying to, like I said, do our best to honor Emmy and just remember that it will never be the same. And being okay with that, I guess, is what we're sort of trying to figure out and get to that point of okay, it won't be the same. It never will be, but we're in this together, just like we were when we were all in it together as a family, caring for her
With her.
24/7. We'll get through it together as a family.
I think you raised an interesting point before too, and it's something that I've given a lot of thought to, and I wish I gave thought to it earlier, and I didn't. But it's that piece about how the siblings have such a different loss, and the siblings are often overlooked in their loss, and I've talked to a bunch of siblings on the show at times because they often are so the question often is, "How's your mom doing? How's your dad
Right.
doing?" Not, "How are you doing?"
Right.
And I think it's a disservice as a society that we have done, and certainly, I know that was the case a lot of times even though Ethan was so young, it was always about, like, how I was doing,
Mhm.
less so about how even the dad, Brian, was doing and certainly less so about Ethan, it just
Mhm.
so I think that being cognizant of that and you raised a bunch of things that I think are so important about how they it's they don't regret it, they would never change anything. All of it is their life, and it's all they know, and they love it, but there is a piece, right? Like, there's a piece that just looked very different, and I don't think I recognized how much it impacted Ethan until, honestly, his college essay. He wrote in his college essay something to the effect of he talked about the night Jake died, and he talked about how he was the one who called 911, and it was, pretty intense for a five-year-old, but he talked about how all of his friends would go see their brothers, like, play, their soccer games or their basketball games or whatever, and that he had to go see his brother at PT or,
Mhm.
like, sit and watch him do OT,
Mhm.
and it wasn't jealousy or spite or anger, like, it was none of those things, it was just factual, but
Right.
it really struck a chord because their experiences are different, and they're different than all of their friends, or most of their friends,
Mhm.
and those differences, I think, carry within them a different weight too, you know?
Oh, yes, for sure. And I keep telling myself and reminding them that they are some of the strongest people I know at such young age in the grand scheme of life. They are some of the strongest, most compassionate human beings in this world because of those experiences that were not typical. They're not typical like their friends or average experiences like
Yeah.
what their friends have, but they're experiences that are so unique and so special in a way that others will, and I'm sure, look at them or, Ethan and wonder what that's like. Wonder, because it's I think it's curiosity.
Yeah.
Sometimes kids don't know. They don't, and they see maybe one of their peers, in our case, any of our kids go, being with Emmy in a way that was different from what they get to experience with their siblings. But I think part of them may wonder too, geez, I wonder what that's like, or wonder what that does, or, because all the different pieces of adaptive
The
equipment and
equipment
all
and the
all the different things that we had to like do just to be able to maybe go out to dinner or this or
yeah.
that. Um,
Or
I
go to
think
their
it's
games and watch,
go to
like,
their
I
games,
remember, like, going
everything.
to
Mhm.
Ethan's soccer game, it was like we were like a traveling,
Yes, yes,
you know
little mini,
yeah.
you know,
Yep.
hospital because you
Yeah,
have to
yeah, like,
bring,
we were bringing
you
all the
have all the
things.
things with you, and I think those experiences, as atypical as they were for most kid, for the average
Yeah,
child, really had made them so strong and
yeah.
such
And they
amazing
will
human
always
beings.
carry it with them. It's, like, imprinted forever in who they are, and
Yes.
I think that's one way, as you talk about honoring Emmy, and I love that language, and I think about as we're talking about the siblings, I can think of ways that I never would have expected, but where Jake has like, honoring Jake, and maybe he doesn't think of it in those words, but that have shown up in Ethan as he's become an adult, and it's a
Yes.
whole
Yeah.
different way to stay connected and to
Mhm.
keep their memory alive, and it's
Yeah.
just who he is. I mean, it's probably not even, maybe intentional anymore,
Mhm.
but I know that it is a little bit of that life, that, like, 24/7 care life that was all he knew as a young one, to
Mhm.
now who he is as an adult. So it's neat to think, and as hard as it is to live without her and without to live without her, like, you can see that in your kids that they will always be carrying her
Yeah.
with
And
them.
you know, that couldn't make me more proud as a parent, that even though it's such a
Yeah.
hard, impossible thing to go through,
Well, it's at such a cost. Yeah.
it's at such a cost, but I'm so proud of them for, for continuing to be who they are and not forget that those experiences and what it's taught them. And I see it just continuing in them as they all, even just in this short, less than 6 months without her, they still talk about her and navigate life as if she's still with us.
It's, it's making me think about, the connection and staying connected to Emmy, and I know one of the things, and I know this because you've done it to other Jake's families, but one of the things that you have done in the last few months is worked with other families about donating her equipment and making sure that that kind of some of the stuff that Emmy had is getting in hands of other kids who need it. Um,
Mhm.
and it not only helps them, but I suspect it also helps you and your family, right?
Mhm. It
Um,
does. It
can you
does.
talk about it? Because I do think that's a beautiful way to also honor Emmy and
Yes. You know, it's another one of those things that was a little bittersweet because some of these things that Emmy was her day to day in order for us to just keep her comfortable. All the things that we had, they're hard to part with. But at the same time, I know how hard they are to obtain. It's it's a challenge to get what you need to safely care for a medically fragile child, and there are so many things that families have to go without, and or wait for, and that just, I remember feeling like this just shouldn't be like this, you know? I mean, clearly things are not going to change. So clearly she needs this adaptive stroller, that because she's never going to walk. Like, these were the thoughts I had then, and thought, why is it so hard to get some of the things that we need? So now that we are on the other side of that, and we no longer need them because Emmy's not physically here, but I know I know that feeling of needing them, and that there's so many other families out there that I've met through this sort of journey of being part of the world of medically complex kids and their families, and meeting them at things like the Jake's Help from Heaven um bowl-a-thon, and all the different events maybe through the years that we've attended, has connected us to several other families. And knowing that it's going to another child that the family is in desperate need of, and just that it can help another family and help another child have some comfort, or some quality better, not better, but just enhance the quality of life,
Yeah.
you know?
And sometimes it is a better
Huge.
quality of life because small pieces of equipment and some of the big pieces of equipment, like, without them, it's harder. It's harder
It's
on the
so hard.
family, it's harder on the child, like, so I love and I think I had shared with you, I was doing a Jake's delivery for sweet Leo, and
Mhm.
as we're just dropping off things and talking and I'm shooting the breeze with Ashley, she was like, "Oh, Emmy's mom gave us this and this," and I almost got teary-eyed because to me, that is such a I don't wanna say full circle moment, but right, it is, like,
It
because
is, it
going
is.
back to our earlier conversation, so many people don't understand the day-to-day of
Right.
caregiving for a complex, medically fragile child, but those of us who do know, like you said, how hard it is to get what you need, how important it is, and the
Mhm.
impact it can have, so I do think that what you're doing and the impact of doing that and sharing it with others is a beautiful way to honor Emmy, and it's so
Yeah.
important.
That's what we're hoping, is that, because through the years we were lucky enough to, you know, get a lot of great pieces of equipment and different things that really enhanced her overall quality of life, and I want other children to be able to benefit from that, even if it's not, brand spanking new. It is a lifesaver sometimes to just be able to have. I know another we had a cubby bed. She had a cubby bed, and I know a lot of people don't know what that is, but if you have a med frag kid, you may know, and it was her favorite place to be, along with her pea pod and her, some of the other things she had, and I remember just delivering that to another family, and just how grateful and thankful they were that their child would now have that safe space to be in, and be able to, you know, maybe give the family 5 seconds to breathe, so that, they knew their child would be safe in that. To me, is just honoring everything about Emmy, because she, you know, she deserves that. She deserves to be remembered through these things that gave her safety and comfort, and just overall the best quality that we could give her.
Erica, that's such a I was gonna say something else, and I just feel like that is just the most beautiful way to end this conversation because I just as you were talking about that bed and how it was one of Emmy's favorite places, and then I think of this other child who I don't even know
Mhm.
experiencing it, I almost the thing that came to mind, and I sound a little kooky right now, but I can picture Emmy's smile and her
Yeah.
eyes, like, I can picture her, and
Mhm.
I feel like she is hearing you talk about that and her things going to new places, and I feel like she is fully, like, beaming and supportive, and I just think that it is such a knowing this world as intimately as we do and how important it is, I just think it's such a beautiful thing that you're doing and delivering them yourselves and seeing these families and knowing that it's because of your beautiful girl that they are going to, like you said, have safety, have joy, have respite, have all of those things. So thank you for doing that. Thank you
Sure.
for being on the show.
Thank you for everything that Jake's has done for did for Emmy too through the years. Like we're so blessed to be part of your family, like I said.
No,
So
and
thank
I'm so
you.
it's our beautiful angels bringing us all together, and I do believe that. Thank you for listening to A Place of Yes. I hope today's conversation brought you comfort, connection, maybe even a little bit of hope. If it did, I'd love for you to subscribe and share this episode with someone who might need it too. See you next time on A Place of Yes.